Hello, my fellow chatterers, and for this video, specifically book buyers, and anyone else who's popped in because you're a bit curious or you got a bit lost. Welcome anyway. I am Chatty, and this is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, where I'll be chatting away madly. Well, actually, it's more of a confession. Yes. It is Monday, November the 7th, and I have a confession to make to you all. I'm very sorry, and I'll get to that confession once I've done my gimmick, because I just need to clarify. I don't edit my videos. The camera goes on, I keep rolling. I have notes, so hopefully I don't stray too far from the point, but sometimes you have to embrace that waffle. So let's try and do this without too much chaos, everyone, because it's very serious, very, very serious. Cheers. One shot, no edit. So, my confession. So around July and August this year, after I had a wonderful trip to the Book Nook with my lovely mum, Nata, and I bought some books, I then decided I need to go on a book buying ban. So I am a book collector and a book buyer. Thank you, YouTube, for teaching me those terms and allowing myself to realise this. I had not before. So I will go out of my way to get books I know I'm going to love in editions that I really want them to be in, because I love that book, I respect that book, and I want it to be the best book that it can be. For example, I have Hollowpox here, which I'll just grab because it's so pretty. So this is the hardback. So I didn't get Let's Do Wondersmith. So we go, already going crazy. So Hollowpox I bought new. And there we go. There's chaos. Chaos is occurring. We always have the chaos. Right. Okay. Let's put you there. Stay. As we were. Hollowpox I bought new, so we're ignoring that one. Wondersmith. When I found out about the Nevermore book series by Jessica Townsend, they only had paperbacks of Wondersmith. You could no longer get hardbacks. So I tracked this down on World of Books because I love a hardback. It is beautiful. We have red, we have Morgan Crow in the middle, we've got silver foiling, but this is what sold it for me. Under the dust jacket, we take this off and you have the whole hardback is covered in this beautiful illustration of the Wonder Society. We've got silver foiling around the gate, and each book has this. So a different part is shown like this. And so I wanted to collect that book, and I tracked it down, like I said, on World of Books. It does a lot of secondhand books. It's one of my go-to places for finding books. So that is one thing I like to do. There are certain books that I really enjoy and I want to get second editions of. I'm not going to go and get them because that's going to be excessive and I'll just be here for far too long. Like, for example, I have Jane Austen books. I really love Jane Austen. I have some like little small weeny ones that are kind of in like old covers, but there are also beautiful ones of that where I love the artwork on it and I just enjoy reading. I'm going to read them again, and I just enjoy the physical feeling of reading a really nice book. It just enhances the reading experience for me. So I like to do that. And I didn't used to buy books myself. It wasn't until I discovered BookTube and the whole world of reading like reopened to it. I was basically a rereader that occasionally went to the library and found something new, but my favourite books tended to be ones I already had, so I would just reread those. And then BookTube opened me up to a whole wonderful realm of books that just wasn't in my existence, because you only get like snippets in libraries and in bookshops, or you need to know where to go. It's so hard to find them sometimes. So I then started to give myself like a budget a month to buy new books on. And like I tried to buy something where I really wanted a particular copy, or there was a book I was excited about, or I wanted to try and like challenge myself or expand my horizons a bit more. So I tried to kind of spread it out like that. But during lockdown, we weren't spending money on other things. So this was like a treat for me, and it grew and grew and grew. And I started to do this thing where I put books under my bed, and I earned them with healthy points, because like quite a few people in lockdown, I realised my clothes were no longer fitting me. And also I needed to do things like go to bed earlier and just be better at my mental health and kinder to myself. So that was a way of me earning books. So I'd be like, well, it doesn't matter because it's not on my shelves. It just goes under there and then I earn it. But that drawer has been full to bursting several times, and then I've kind of stopped and reined it back in, and then got excited and it's got full to bursting again. So we're very much at that full to bursting moment. And also we're now not in lockdown and I need to not spend so much money on books because that's not fair on the rest of my family if I'm spending all the money on books. So I think quite a few people can relate to when you have too many books and you start trying to play Tetris to try and fit them on your shelves. Like, so this is my bookshelf here. As you can see, double stacked. This is my husband's shelf. The books are way back. There's only a single layer of books on that one. My shelf, once again, were double stacked. This shelf is double stacked. These are my kids' books. They're not double stacked, but usually I try and put a load of books everywhere. But I'm going to come on to why I haven't later because I'm going to do how many books are on my shelves I haven't read video after this one. Anyway, we've already gone off on a tangent. Where was I? What was the point of this? Wonderful. Yes, so I love buying books. It gives me a lot of joy, but I need to rein it in a bit. I mean, it gets to the point where I am more willing to buy a book than I am a new pair of shoes, despite the fact that several of my shoes I have worn so much that I have, I've got holes in the sole, which is fine in the summer, doesn't matter. But in the winter, you start to realise that your feet get a bit damp. And sometimes I'm like, it's fine, I'll just wear extra socks and it'll be okay. But I really need to kind of like readjust my priorities here and maybe rein in the book buying. So to do this, we go on a book buying ban. Lots of people do this. Like I said, Tetris shelves, and then suddenly you realise that one or two books you've propped by the shelves have turned into there's a stack of books, and because you've been to the library and you've got more, or you've borrowed some off friends and there's more books. So I was like, come on, rein it in, keep it back, sort yourself out. So I decided to go on a book buying ban. That's a good thing to do, isn't it? Lovely. Sadly, in September, I fell off the wagon because I did a whole thing about series I'm trying to complete. One of them is a duology. I have a hardback copy of Even the Darkest Stars, and I really wanted to read All the Wandering Light. And I just so happened to be looking at World of Books, and I just so happened to see they finally had one in. I had been checking and they hadn't had it for ages and ages and ages. And the last time I saw it, I was like, no, I'll be good. I will just buy the first one to see if I like it, because there's no point buying two in case I don't like the first one. And I like the first one. I think I like the first one. I need to... That's another story. Okay, I like the first one. Let's not get into that. So I wanted the second one to read, but then it wasn't there anymore. There was paperback versions, but no hardback, and it was really hard to see. This was on there for £5. I'm like, yes, a hardback of this book. I need to get it now. But I obviously broke the book buying ban. I was chatting with Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe when she was reintroducing her whole year of not buying books, because she's fantastic at sticking to her goals. She was like, don't worry, you can do it this time. You can be strong. You can do it. I was like, yes, I can. And then October happened. And we're going to blame Robin Hobb. Robin Hobb is totally to blame for my abysmal lack of self-control. So I am very much enjoying the Hobb along with Anitha Garde and many other people. And I don't have the final book in that third trilogy that we're on, the Tawny Man trilogy. I do not have, well, I do now. Assassin's Fate. This is the book we will be reading in December. So I thought I need to check charity shops. Okay, a bit more of a confession. My friend Dave does have this, but these are books that I really love. I want to own them. I want them in my house. But his copy is like twice the size of this, and like, a good bit wider. I don't know if it's like a large print version or what it is, but it's huge, and I'm trying to save on the shelf space. So I'm like, you can keep that one. I'm gonna try and find a smaller one. I'm sure I can. So I started looking in charity shops to see if I could find it, or if there were any other ones to kind of complete my collection. Of course there weren't, but there were other books that were on my list. So I ended up walking out of charity shops with 2 middle grades and a YA fantasy that had been on my list for a while. Whoops. But if you don't buy them, then they go, and then you won't see them again, and then you'll feel sad, was my philosophy. I then, not finding it, went on World of Books. Dangerous. Because I can't just buy one. I can't just buy the one book from World of Books, because I saw there were others. And I was like, Christmas is coming. I might as well get some books in for my children. They had the wonderful buy 3 for 4. option, and there were several of my son's books in there that he wanted, so I'm like, lovely. And there were a couple of, I had been researching more middle grade books. Like, I realised there's a lot of middle grade I have, but I don't really have any stories that show protagonists that have got a disability or protagonists from other places. So I was trying to like research and find more to kind of widen out my middle grade book collection. So there were all these wonderful books that sounded so exciting that I wanted, and they had them on World of Books. So they had a few in the around the £3 price mark, which were in 3 for 4. So I bought all those in one block. And then there were some in the £5 3 for 4. So I was like, and I'll buy those in one block. One of which was a hardback that has been on my list since very early me coming aware of BookTube. So it's been on there for a long time and I still hadn't got it. And to see it in a hardback form for £5 was far too much for me to cope with. And then I found 3 other books that kind of fitted in that. So that was more book buying. I then went home to visit my parents and took my children and had a lovely time over half term. We went to a National Trust place and they have secondhand bookshops there. So of course me and my mum went in to have a look. They had a whole bookcase of fantasy. That never happens. It's very rare. It's usually nice to have a look around, but I don't tend to buy anything. They had a whole shelf of fantasy, including a book that I recently put on my list because of seeing it in the Sisterhood of the Travelling Book Box. I think it was Jimmy Nuts that put it in there, The Sheep Farmer's Daughter. And hearing people talk about that, I was so excited for this book. It's an older fantasy written in sort of like the 80s or 90s by Elizabeth Moon. And I thought the premise sounded brilliant. And I also want to read more female fantasy authors from that time period. And there were some more female fantasy authors in this book. There was obviously someone had like donated their whole collections of books here. So I found like 4 that were part of a series and I got them. So that's another 5 books. I'm just checking my notes to see where I went after that. Yeah, so let's add up. That is so far 14 books that went under the bed. Actually, no, this one's out now. 14 books that went under the bed. Plus, I then borrowed 3 of Mum's books and she had bought me 2 books because she's lovely and does that. So I was going home with 5 books as it was, just from my mum's house. So now in my house, I have 20 books. It was 19, but I'm also this one from September. 20 books since I made the book buying ban decision. That's insane. That is a massive whoops. What do I do about this? If the wonderful Olivia and her encouragement is not enough to keep me on track, what hope is there for me and others of my kind? What hope is there? Well, an unlikely saviour has come about in the form of Olly to provide that hope for us with the hashtag read what you own. So if you don't know Olly, please go and check out his channel. I've linked him in the Discord. I've also linked his video where he sets off this challenge. So I think it was last year he did the read 100 books until he could buy new books challenge for himself. Lots of other people got involved. He wanted to do it this year and he's opened it up with different levels and kind of tiers, because 100 books is kind of like, maybe if I concentrated I could read that in a year, but I can't not buy books in a whole year. I mean, we've already seen my massive fall off the wagon here. Let's make realistic goals and try and gain some kind of momentum and a sense of achievement here. So what's so fantastic about this that he's created is that you can be in charge of your own level and your own goal. So do go and look at his video. I've also linked some other people who are doing this as well. So Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads, who took part in it previously and is doing it this year, is also going for the platinum level. MJ from Reading This Life is going in for bronze level, which is 25 books. So I've linked their videos too, so you can go and have a look and kind of hear what their rules are and what their goals are and how they came to kind of join in with this. So I am so excited to be taking part in this, and it starts today. It doesn't need to start today because you can set your own rules, but they are all starting today, and so it makes sense. I woke up this morning to see my feed full of these videos, and I was like, yes, this is what I need to get myself on track. Throw the other filming plans out the window. I am filming this video. So my plan and my goals. I am in the fortunate position, sort of, dubiously, where I only read physical books. I don't have a Kindle. I don't read ebooks. I do listen to some audiobooks, but it is generally, but I don't have like Audible. These are all kind of, I get them from the library. So I'm not kind of worried about clearing any kind of e-reader or audible kind of books. It is literally just physical books on my shelves. But saying that, I have several. So my plan is I'm going for an iron level, which is a level I've completely made up because it kind of fits me. So my iron level, I'm going for the idea of 20 books because that is a realistic goal for me. Because I want to kind of get myself down to kind of like back to zero when I originally decided to do this book buying ban. In February, there are three new release middle grade books that I am so excited about coming out. So I know I will want to get those. So in order for me to be able to get them, I want to have read 20 books I own by February. So that's given me 3 months to read 20 books. That sounds like an achievable goal for me, so I'm not going to be stressing out because obviously, you know, this is November, December, January, and for me, it's kind of the end of term. There's a lot of chaos going on. There's holidays. There's my Mad March Hare's birthday. There's a lot. And I've also wanted to try and read less so I can focus more on like life goals, like remembering to send people's birthday cards on time, and be aware of all the stuff that I need to prepare for like school and work and be less chaotic. So I'm trying to read less so I can have more brain space for those things. So going for 20 is kind of mixing all of those goals together. Conferring notes, making sure I've covered everything. Yeah, so my reasoning behind the name of the iron being the metal that I am choosing, it is never given as a medal form in the Olympics. You get your bronze, silver, gold. Obviously platinum is kind of like a higher medal, a more desired metal than gold for things like jewelry. No one wears iron jewelry. But technically, if we're looking at things historically, Iron Age followed the Bronze Age, so it kind of built on that. So should I feel that I'm doing really well with my goal of hitting 20, I may around December decide to change the goalposts and make it kind of more slightly above the Bronze Age. So therefore level, bronze level, not age. That's confusing myself. Slightly above the bronze level, so iron can be flexible in that. And also I'm trying to allude to some sort of strength. There is an iron fist around my money, so I can't buy books with it. It will not let me. I physically can't. It's not going to happen. So give me that will of iron to do this challenge and complete these goals. I'm just checking again that I have said everything I need to. Yes, we are now on to my actual goals. Okay, so the goal is 20 books by February. I'm starting today. There is one exception, purely because I would have pre-ordered this, but I was trying to be sensible and frugal and not get overexcited and wait for the next month's budget of money before getting this book that I'm really excited about from an author I want to support. So that is Sophia Thurker's new anthology of poetry. I want to support her work, and I really want to read this poetry and talk about this poetry as soon as I can because I really love it. So that is the one exception because I already planned to get that. I'm just, again, trying to be sensible with my money. So I don't think I should punish myself for being sensible. So that is the one exception. But if I read that, it's not going to count towards my 20. And I've already done sensible things like the Lost Metal, the new Brandon Sanderson book, which I absolutely do want to read. I'm going to get that from the library. No, I have got that from the library. I'm first on the list, which is thrilling. I will be the first one getting that new book from the library and reading it. So that's that one solved. And Hobb and all my other read-alongs, I already own the books I need to get me through to February, because after the Tawny Man trilogy, we then have a month's break, and then February we're going to start the 4th series in the Realm of the Eldlings, which is the Rain Wild Chronicles. So I don't need to worry about any of those things. I can still continue with all of my series and buddy reads and read-alongs. It's all fine. I am part of 2 book subscription box. So I get the Fairy Loot YA box and I get the Shelterbox book club. So if I read Typhoon, which was the latest Shelterbox book club, then that will count towards my 20 books. If I read One Dark Window, then that will also count towards my 20 books, because these were the October books and I'm starting this in November. However, when I get more books from Shelterbox and from Fairy Loot, those will not count. If I read them, they will not count towards my 20 books. Library books will also not count. These are 2 library books I have that are on my November TBR that I need to read. These will not count towards my 20 books. I'm still going to read them because they need to go back to the library and they're part of my November TBR, but they're not going to count. It's becoming more and more apparent why I went for 20 as a challenge, but also an achievable goal. Rereads also do not count because I've already read that book. Unless, like, for example, Good Omens, which I'm planning to read in May, so it's not going to be relevant for this, but it's an example. Good Omens is a book I specifically bought for myself. I had read it already, but I bought it in a pretty copy, and I will then plan to read that book. So I don't actually own that one. I borrowed my mum's, but I want to reread from the new copy that I have, and it has been a while since I've read that one. So that reread would count towards it. However, a book, for example, like one that I'd already, for example, a book that I borrowed from my brother, like when I was reading Coming to Me, Mistborn Era 2 books, that wouldn't count because I have already read them. I just wanted to refresh myself in a hype up. So that's kind of the logic behind that. So those rereads wouldn't count towards because I've already read them. So library books don't count, rereads don't count. Borrowed books that I have never read, so books I'm borrowing from friends, like A Street Cat Named Bob, which is on my list for this one, is a book borrowed from a friend. That will count. That will count because I've had that book on a bookshelf. It's been taking up space on a bookshelf and I'm intending to read it. Like all the ones I've borrowed from my mum, they will all count, even though I'm borrowing them, because when I finish them, I'm going to give them back. And then 1, that's a book off my TBR, and 2, that's a book off my shelf. So they will absolutely count. And that is all my rules. Ha-ha! Lovely. So there we go. That is my intention behind the Read What You Own challenge. That is my little goal setting. That is where I'm coming from. And I'm now going to go and really reflect on how many books I actually have. I'm going to go around the house and I'm going to count up how many books I have that I haven't read that would then count towards this. So I'm going to stop this video because otherwise it's going to get massively long, and you can look out for that one coming soon. So it'll be like a little, you know, those books where you're like, this is all my unread books that are on my physical TBR, and they do those things. We're going to go along the bookshelves because I don't edit, and that's just going to be so much havoc with the pause button. Anyway, if this sounds like something you want to get behind, you want to set yourself goals to do as well, absolutely do it. Go and look at Criminoli's video as he explains the whole plan behind it, so you've got more information, and check out other ones. It's a lot of fun. And I'm also going to shout out a few people that may, benefit from this or want to think about this as something too. Because I think there are some similar things. Like I know Holly from Lovely Day with Holly has done a book buying ban video. Obviously, I've already mentioned Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe. She will excel at this because she reads loads as well. So it just might be something slightly different for her to think about. I'm going to mention Chrissie from... I'm so sorry, Chrissie, I can't remember your channel name. I'm so sorry, Chrissie. it will be in the description box. I'm going to mention Chrissie because she did this amazing video where she personified her TBR, and her personified TBR had a go at her for buying many, many books. So Chrissie, maybe this is what you need. Maybe this isn't a way to appease your TBR. This could help you or make you cry. I'm not sure which one it will be. And I'm also going to mention Kemi as well from Violet Pages, because I just watched some of her videos this morning and she is doing reading to 0. So I'm just going to let you know that this is another thing that's going on with them trying to read the stuff from your shelves. So this is a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, get involved. If you're doing this, do the hashtag #readwhatyouown. And I will see you soon. Happy reading, everyone.